Hi everyone, welcome to the second episode of our webinar series. Today we're going to cover the subject of data confidence and how to bridge the gap between the data producers and the data citizens. I'm here for the second time. My name is Ellen. I'm a part of the tech team. I have Carl with me today. Nice to have you here, Carl.
Thanks very much, Ellen. As Ellen mentioned, my name is Carl, or for you who does not know, I work as the commercial director here at NodeGraph. Just as Ellen said, we are going to share some insights from our market research about data confidence, what it is, how you can overcome it, and what are the major benefits for that. Before we start off, we would like to share and do a recap of what we did last time. So last time we established the do's and don'ts on high data quality, namely adding it in your overall data strategy. And we also, if we look at these figures, they are still the same 1 month later. But we see that data quality is a huge topic on organizations, and it's also a major concern about everything that's going around with the data. We have the 95% of organizations see impacts from poor data quality. 84% of CEOs on a global level worry about their organization's data. What we have discussed, and what's also a bit interesting, is to look at those other 16%. How do they achieve good data, or are they not aware about this scoop, about the lack of data quality throughout the world? Also, there are a couple of dimensions, basically meaning that if you have a complete data set, do you get the data and the reports when they are needed? And also, are you treating your data consistently throughout your entire estate? Worth mentioning is that the market study we have done is done on a global level with the topic of data quality. But we believe, and also from what we have encountered with our customers and partners, that this is actually a topic for Qlik as well. Since we have the dimensions, I mean, those can be measurable, but instead of having like, we are having 80% timeliness in our data set, we would like to say that instead of having measures on all of that, we have formulated a sentence instead. And that sentence is good data means that the data is up to date, complete, and a true reflection of the reality that's being analyzed. And also a big part of data quality is to know, where does my data come from, and is it consistent throughout my entire estate? Do I have control over the data and sources? If you can answer yes to that question, that's really good, because then it will mean that you have good data quality. If you answer maybe, then that means that you are not sure if you have good data quality. And if you answer no to that question, that means that you have some challenges with data quality, and that needs to be investigated according to what we believe. So, the data confidence gap, what is it? And the major benefit with having good data quality throughout your estate. Well, we would say that the data confidence gap is all about being able to scale your understanding with the same pace as data increases. Meaning that there is a lot more data produced, and there is a lot more data that's being analyzed. But if you are not confident in that data and in that data sets, then what's the point? Then it's better to scale down and go back to basics instead. But that's of course not good either, because then it means that you will lose your competitive advantage in the market. So everything about data is to gain competitive advantage. Or what do you say, Ellen? Am I correct there?
You are having a really good point in there. And I mean, the data confidence is not that the one who are producing the data are confident that the data is right. We'd like to democratize. It's a very, very hard word to say. But be letting everyone within the organization being aware of the data and actually being able to trust it. So I bet you have some thoughts on that as well, right?
Yes, and that's bottom line from all the conversations we have with our customers throughout the world. What we usually ask in all sales meetings and in all meetings that we do have, what does data mean for you? And we're going to show a picture here that shows a little bit, shows the typical answers, or if you boil it down, this is typically what they answer. So if you look at the left-hand side, you see words governance, structure, and processes. And that's pretty much what everything boils down to what we call a data producer. We're not saying that they are not concerned and they don't appreciate and want to make the business grow, but in the daily job, that's mostly and often the topics that they discuss. That's basically their work. When we ask what we call data citizens, and data citizens for us means that this is the people that actually are making decisions upon data. They talk more about insights, decisions, and bottom line trust. So there is a very strong relationship between this, and we will show this. We will show a couple of figures from our latest market research as well that shows who has the ownership and what the organization generally believes should have the ownership. So if we talk about this, the confidence gap, we would like to say that that's somewhat of a knowledge transfer. Because the data producers, they allocate, transform, and calculate data. Data citizens reads, interprets, and take action on data. And if you're not completely 100% convinced that the data you're analyzing is correct and true, and a true reflection of the reality that's being out there, then you start to immediately perhaps taking decisions a little bit later, because you need to ask someone, you need to ask a data warehouse, you need to ask an IT manager, a BI manager, can I really trust this data? Because last time I looked at this, we had different figures in our board meeting because the app hadn't been reloaded or the data was not consistent. My colleague looked at Europe level, I looked at Southern Europe, so we are a bit concerned. And this is basically, and bottom line, the confidence gap. And why is it so? If you remember from our last webinar when we discussed the different or the biggest contributors to lack of data quality, one major part was communication between different departments. And that's very interesting to see that data quality somewhat stems from communication. So there should be some way, instead of having manpower handling this communication, there should be a way to have a software doing this communication for them. Well, what do you say, Ellen? Yeah. What do you encounter when you talk with customers? You talk more to the technical people and I talk more to the business commercial, but what are your beliefs when I say this?
You covered a lot of good parts when bridging the gap for the data confidence part. And I will also say, once you have started and then you are aware of, okay, I'm looking at the correct numbers, I can trust my data, then the real knowledge transfer comes in place, because then you need to make sure that the ones who are reading the data can actually understand their data. And that can be done in several ways. I mean, it boils down to being numbers, but how can we actually visualize the data to really make it understandable? So that's also a good part of bridging the gap.
Yeah, awesome. I promised to give you some data on what the confidence gap actually, if we boil that down to numbers. Well, what we see, and this is also a big part of the democratization of data, is that 84% of data is managed by IT. So that's the gap. 75%, although, believe that the responsibility should lie within business. And why is that so? Well, some of the conclusions is that almost 7 out of 10 believes that having not control of the data means that they might miss their strategic objectives in the future. So just to boil this down before we enter our platform and how we have imagined to solve this confidence gap, if you have good data confidence. It means that you can make informed decisions, you can make faster decisions, and you can, bottom line, also make trusted decisions. We would like to say that data should be treated as a core asset within your company. And if you look at all the other assets you do have in your company, and not talking about them in quality terms, almost no organizations will do that. So bridging the gap between the data producer and the data citizen is very, very important. And if you do bridge this gap, it means that you can make more cost-effective decisions, and you can make more cost-efficient, data-driven decisions. And bottom line, it's also about democratization of data. There shouldn't be different divisions. Since it is a core asset, it should be treated as a core asset, meaning that everyone should be able to discuss and argue with data, and also being able to understand what is happening with my data before it's being published in beautiful graphs in my dashboard, so to say. Just to talk about the NodeGraph data quality platform, the biggest values we would like to say we can offer is to boost the data confidence, enabling the trust and understanding in your entire Qlik solution, ensure the consistency in a very, very easy way. Some might say that this project is a very long project. Well, how do you believe just installing and using this on organizations, and also namely enterprise organizations? What would you say is a typical setup time?
The setup time are not that long. We are software, and we are installed and work straight out of the box. You don't need to do any configurations or change in your code. It's just to point out to NodeGraph where to look, where do we find the log files, and then set up your environment.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it actually is like that.
It actually is like that. It's not hard.
And this is also why you can start embracing the scalability. Instead of having humans be responsible for the communication and for the democratization, we strongly believe that this should be done by via a software instead, just to make it available for everyone.
Let me show you how that works in NodeGraph and how we can fulfill the needs of data quality.
Awesome.
Yeah, super exciting, right? As you said, we like to boost the data confidence, and we do that through building trust and understanding in the Qlik estate. And since we are a platform, we have different modules and different functionality, but today I'd like to showcase what we can do in the Dependency Explorer. And just to highlight, we are working for both QlikView and Qlik Sense, and you can have as many apps as you like within your view of Dependency Explorer. We have seen solutions with more apps than I have in here, but to make it very brief for you to understand, this is what we showcase. We have the data sources, they are to the left, and then we have built NodeGraph to show you the apps to the very right. What's also in here is the content. So in the content, we are showing you the data lineage all the way to your expressions or your sheets or what you might have in your content. We are showing that. So let's have a typical showcase or a use case that we can see. Is that, okay, I'm having the same KPIs in two places. So I have my sales KPI in here, and I have them as a sheet and as a container, and furthermore as an object. And I also have that one in another place in my solution. And how can I trust that they are the same? Okay, they are named the same, but were they actually made in the same way? So by doing a very quick analysis in here, we do get rid of what's not connected, and then we expand, and then we can actually see all the way to data source that they were pulled in from the same data source, and they were used. They have been used in the same way, and they are actually meaning the same thing, and they are named the same. So that's a confidence boost, right?
Yes, I would believe so. In this showcase, one typical use case I've encountered many times in my professional life is that we are looking into different dashboards, but with the same KPI. And sometimes the numbers don't match up. And then there is a huge, that's the typical case of a data confidence gap. And that's perhaps built upon that we don't understand how the data is traveling. So if I would have been able to look at the data, or someone could have shown me the data, how it's actually been transformed and calculated, that would be a huge relief for us, because then we can say, oh, this is the KPI we should go for, instead of just having a debate that, oh, I don't trust this tool, let's do something else. Well, I've exported all this to Excel instead, so it's not updated, and I have like multiple versions of Excel, instead of trusting and interpret and focus on what the data means, instead of wondering, can I trust this data or not?
Yeah, and I mean, you can always be humble and trust the ones who are producing the data within your organization, but to be able to see it and to really understand, here we have the knowledge transfer, that this view can be like understandable even though you haven't been in QlikView and haven't actually seen what's done behind the scenes.
Yes.
So what we work with the NodeGraph is to really make it understandable for all, not only for the data producers.
Yeah. And also, since we were discussing the scalability, this is like a blueprint of your entire Qlik solution. And that also means that instead of going through all scripts and trying to understand what has happened prior to when the data was first loaded, you can, in a very instant way, gain a lot of insight within your Qlik solution.
Yeah. And I hope that we left a little bit more for you to wonder how NodeGraph works. And with that said, you're more than welcome to book a demo with us, where we are super excited to show you how we can help you boost your data confidence and also your data quality. So don't hesitate. I think we will put the link below. So just click there and book a demo, so then we can talk about your data quality together.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you very much, Ellen.
Thank you.
For being here
Yeah,
and
and
support
thank you
me
all.
with the technical bits and pieces. Awesome that you have watched this webinar. Great.